Hey guys, Dustin Nguyen, and you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Paul Dini, listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, and you're listening to Bat Force Radio, so stay tuned.
I can see you're a Batman fan. I'm looking at all your Batman stuff behind you, and I'm like,
yeah, dude. It's actually a funny story. So let me just intro you real quick before I forget the intro, because I am so excited to talk to you specifically. I'm talking to Mr. Kam Lee of Massacre, fucking legendary death metal vocalist, innovator of the death growl. Man, just like, dude, you look great, by the way. Like, I was thinking about some of the releases that you have, and you're looking good, dude. So
thank you.
It's great that Massacre's coming out. What better timing? I know your birthday's coming up pretty soon.
Yep.
Halloween's coming. Massacre album's coming. How does it feel, dude?
Actually, it feels great. The album is actually late, but it actually is kind of neat that it's coming out closer to my birthday. Of course, my birthday is on Halloween, so it was supposed to come out originally in the summer, around July, but because of the current situation with COVID and everything like that, so everything's been delayed because record labels have had to push things back, mostly I think because of vinyl pressing plants is the biggest thing. Because I think what it is a lot of the staff at a lot of the vinyl pressing plants, of course, because of COVID, they had to go down to skeletal crews and stuff like that, and probably got such a big backlog that I remember when Nuclear Blast first told us, they're like, yeah, it's going to be delayed. I was like, why? They're like, you want it on vinyl, right? And I'm like, yeah. So in a cool kind of way, and I didn't even ask for this, they surprised me with this, but they were like, okay, well, we know it's going to come out later. Well, we're really pushing for it to come out closer to your birthday. I was like, okay, that's really cool. And then they said, and we're going to throw in an extra different color vinyl. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that right now, but there's like a special version going to come out. Like a alternate version. So you're going to have your standard, version of black vinyl. And then we're supposed to have sort of this really ugly mustard green, swampy looking vinyl coming out, which is the one I picked because it made me think of Lovecraft when I looked at it. And then they're going to do more of a green vinyl. So there's like actually all these different versions of the vinyl coming out, which I didn't expect that. So it was kind of like their way of making it up to me. They're like, well, we're going to do like 3 or 4 different versions of the vinyl. I was like, oh, well, thank you. That's cool. I didn't even expect that.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, man. Why not? Why not go all out if they had to wait for so long to finally get it out? I know you're mentioning the background that I got up. So, I kind of wanted to get into a couple of things. Obviously, new record. You had to wait for so long to put it out due to COVID and all that stuff. How's it going, by the way? I know you're in Florida.
It's Florida's bad. My brother actually got it. My brother and his family got it. But they're on now. I'm not gonna try to be political about this, but it's kind of hard not to be when you're talking about this. I'm on the vaccinated side of it, and I wear a mask when I go out. Because that's an altruistic, decision to do that. You don't want to make other people sick. My brother's on the other side of the spectrum. He's on the, oh no, I'm not fucking wearing a mask and I'm not gonna get vaccinated. And now he has COVID. Yeah. So he's been suffering for the last couple of weeks with it, but he went to the hospital and they actually turned him away because they have no beds. And I'm in Orlando and I just saw the news today. Orlando's so packed with the dead that they're having to call in freezer trucks. So that's scary. That kind of lets you know the reality of what's going on. And people, I've got friends in California. I've got friends, in different places. And like I said, I'm not going to tell you one way or the other what to do. But my friends in California, they're vaccinated and they're telling me over there it's pretty bad. I've got friends in Texas, which Texas is kind of like Florida right now as well, where the governor is saying no mask mandates and stuff like that. And they're telling me it's bad. But then I got friends up in Chicago and stuff, and like they're like, oh well, we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing, and it seems to be cool. So it depends on where you talk to people, and there's people overseas that I talk to that are saying the same thing. I've got some friends in the UK that said, "Oh man, it's terrible here," and then I got some friends in Germany and stuff. They're like, well, people are kind of like getting frustrated with things, but they're kind of like, it's cool. So it's crazy everywhere.
Yeah, man. I hope your brother pulls through. I hope he gets healthier, and it's something that you can kind of move on from and look back from. And it's brutal, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's 3 weeks in now, and he said that he was struggling because a couple of weeks ago is when he went to the hospital and they turned him away. Now I talked to him this morning, and I've been keeping up with him. He said he still has no taste and no smell, and he's got this constant cough, but he said everything else is fine.
Okay, good.
He's like, I'm getting through it. It's fine. It's just I wish my taste would come back.
Yeah. So it sounds like he's on the better side of it, but he's got the lingering effects, which a lot of people have, man. Yeah. Well, again, I fucking hope he recovers. I hope that everything's good to go. You guys get good news. I'm glad that you've been all right, being in Florida. But yeah, dude, it's great to have Massacre back, dude. I know that something that's funny is like, I feel like as fans of heavy metal, death metal, we're super spoiled because like I got sent an email that had the information, Massacre, new album, Signed a Nuclear Blast, link to the YouTube. And I was thinking like, man, we have it so fucking good. Like I literally open my phone and I have new Massacre right there. Like I don't have to go look for it. It's right there. And so I clicked on YouTube and I was watching it and I'm just sitting there like, fuck, dude, I'm like I didn't have to go anywhere. And like this legendary band is like right here in my hand. And it's funny because I'm like, I wonder what these fucking kids are going to be saying on the YouTube comments. So I go to the YouTube comments, never read the YouTube comments. However, dude, your YouTube comments are fucking nothing but positive right now. Like absolutely overwhelmingly positive comments on the YouTube page for the single. So I'm not sure if you've looked at any of those comments or the reactions.
Actually, I avoid them because I don't want to go. I'm like,
I figured.
I remember the first day that it came out and the Nuclear Blast said, "Did you check it out yet?" I'm like, "No, I haven't." And they're like, "Well, okay, go ahead and check it out." So I linked on it and I already saw like, I didn't look at comments, but I saw there were 7 thumbs down, like right on the first day. And I'm like, well, there's, I'm like thinking, well, there's 4 ex-members that are pretty bitter and their wives. So that makes about sense. It's 7 thumbs down. So,
I saw you post that on, I think it was your Instagram. I fucking laughed my ass off. I was like, what a funny comment. However, though, like since then, there's, I'm looking at the stats right now, over 3,000, almost 4,000 likes, thumbs up, tons of shares, almost 70,000 views. And I'm telling you, dude, like every comment is like fantastic. Like sounds killer. Here's one. Sounds killer. Cam sounds just as great as he did on From Beyond. Old school death metal will never die. Other one says one of the greatest death metal vocalists ever. Welcome back, Massacre. Can't wait. I love this one. It said, where'd it go? Damn, if the rest of the album is even half as good as this, it's a banger. Knock it out of the park. Massacre kick ass. So yeah, dude, it's just constant comments like that, pretty much all across the board.
That's great.
Yeah, man. So it's, I think everyone, like it's been a rough year and a half. People are fucking ready for some good shit. And, you've got the voice, you've got the band, and it's fucking amazing to hear you coming back. So how does it feel to know that the fans are already kind of just so thrilled with the stuff the one single that's been out?
That's exciting. I'm more than actually pleased, I guess. It's better than I expected, I guess you could say. It's surprisingly good. So I'm kind of like, very, very happy about that.
Hell yeah.
But I'm such a cynical person. And it's so hard for me. I'm not nihilistic, I'm not to the point where I just want the world to burn, but it's very hard because I'm such a misanthrope and I'm such a cynic. And even my wife is always like, "You do good. What are you so down on yourself?" I'm like, "I'm not down on myself. I'm just like," she's always mad at me because I'm always like cynical about everything. And
that makes excellent art though. Like I think the best artists are the ones who are constantly wanting to find ways of improving themselves. The shitty ones are the ones that think they're the greatest. Like those are the ones that like, you get annoyed with how fucking into their own shit they get, and they start getting weird near their end of their careers, fucking Kanye West and shit. But yeah, you know, it's fantastic to see the response and also to hear you putting out you know, the Massacre stuff. Am I wrong in some of the grotesquerie? Some of the guys from that are in the band now?
Yes. The drummer from the Grotesquerie and Roga Johansson, the guitar player, they're also in the band. Actually, Brinjar was the last to join because we kind of like didn't know. I was putting it together kind of like in a quick kind of way. And I was thinking of another drummer at the time. And then that other drummer had he had other obligations. And I was like, man, we got to really get this done. And Roga's like, well, why not Brinjar? And I'm like, I guess so. I guess I why not? You know, I like, yeah, I don't know why I didn't think that. So I guess I should tell you real quick, it's kind of a weird thing, but the lineup that recorded, they're kind of a recording lineup. So we're going to have them on the album, but we're also going to have a different lineup live, except for me and Mike Borders. Me and Mike Borders were pretty much the kind of the core of the band at this point right now. But we do have plans, and actually tomorrow I'm actually auditioning a drummer and guitar player from Florida, and that we'll probably be using for our live shows. But also Johnny Pedersen, who's also on the album, most likely will join us in Europe. And the reasons why is, for one, Roga doesn't tour. Roga is even a bigger misanthrope than me. And he's just like, I don't know if he hates people or he has that, I don't know. There's that kind of, I don't want to say it's a phobia because that makes you sound weak, but there's this sort of like condition that you have where you don't like to be in crowds.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think it's
agoraphobic.
Agoraphobic. Yeah. I thought so. That's what Roga has. So he's like, man, I can't be in a room with more than 5 people. And I start to freak out. I'm like, really? Yeah. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. So he'll always be a part. I've worked with him for 15 years. I've worked with him in band Bonar, also the Grotesquerie, the Skeletal. So I've worked with Roga, you know, through many years now. So, but I guess when it comes down to the members, they're the best members that I knew, that I've worked with, that I knew could bring the proper death metal.
Yeah.
Mainly because all these guys that I know, Roga Johansson, Johnny Pedersen, even Scott Fairfax, who we had come in and do the solos, all these guys are Massacre fans. They're not just like metal musicians or death metal musicians that are just playing death metal. They're actually fans of Massacre. So that was very key and very important when I thought about who was I going to reach out to, who was I going to get kind of in a pinch, who could I get? And it was like, these guys are fans of Massacre. How I met them is because they're fans of Massacre, not because I went and sought out musicians. Mm-hmm. They actually got in touch with me years ago and, hey man, I'm such a big fan of Massacre. And we became friends that way. So that's awesome. Like, yeah, that was like the main thing. It's like, these guys were fans of Massacre. They knew what Massacre sound was. But one thing I really wanted to retain, and I remember telling them, I said, I love Swedish death metal, and both the guitar players are Swedish. And I was like, because when they started writing the first music, I said, don't feel like you have to kind of like be in this box of writing death metal that sounds like Florida death metal. I said, of course, we want to retain that sound because this album is truly fan service. But I said, I really wanted to, like, I said, let's, you can have that sound be the core sound, but don't stick with it because I love Swedish death metal. So bring a little bit of that Swedish death metal flavor into it. So kind of mix it a little bit. And I think they did a really good job of doing that.
That fucking tantalizes me big time, dude. So I can't wait to listen to that. Like, yeah, dude, that should sound killer. So I did want to kind of share something. Let me see if I can share my screen on this thing. Let's see here if you can see this. So can you see that?
Nothing yet. It says it.
Damn it.
Oh, there we go. Yeah,
there it is.
Yeah,
so that's you, and it looks like you're in the same studio that you're in right now. I think, and you're holding up a Dark Knight's death metal poster.
Yes.
So where did you get that poster? And I stole this off your Instagram. So obviously I read your comments on the comic, because obviously you see Dark Knight's death metal and you see DC Comics, like, holy shit, they're doing like a death metal themed comic. And so then you read it and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But so what were your thoughts? And like, I mean, it's a sweet poster nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, I really wanted to. I'm a big Batman fan myself, so I read Dark Knight's Metal, so I kind of knew that after reading that. And actually, the Batman That Laughs is like now one of my favorite. I can't get enough of it. Yeah. So when I saw the Dark Knight's Death Metal, I said, okay, this is obviously going to be a continuation of where they left off when they left off with Metal. And I said, I knew it wasn't going to be like truly death metal, but what I actually saw was they were kind of doing this promotional thing where they were having bands come in and kind of connect to it, and none of the bands were death metal.
Yeah,
I was
man.
like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
I'm like, they didn't even get any death metal bands to represent. But I mean, it's DC. I don't know if I don't know who's boss over there. Is Jim Lee still? I don't know if Jim Lee is still like it is Jim. I was like, maybe Jim and maybe they don't know.
I don't think so. I think what happened is I know that Greg Capullo, the artist, is he's a heavy metal fan. So he likes Zakk Wylde, he likes Black Label, he likes a lot of classic heavy metal. I don't think he dabbles too much into death metal. Mm-hmm. And I know the writer Scott Snyder is like classic rock and that kind of thing. I think what happened is they're both friends with Tyler Bence. Is it Tyler Bence? I think his name's Tyler Bence, and he does a lot of like video game and movie soundtracks.
Okay, yeah.
And he actually knows a lot of like just bands in general. So he's friends with like I don't know if he's like friends with managers, but like, you know, you probably saw like Megadeth got a cover.
Yeah.
Lacuna Coil got a cover. I think I want to say Ghost or was it Meshuggah or In Flames?
Yeah, Meshuggah. Yeah, I think Meshuggah was on there, and In Flames. Yeah. I was like, I saw all that stuff. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
it's not one death metal band on there.
And that was like man, like, and you said the same thing on your Instagram, like fucking missed opportunity. Like, there's so many death metal bands that would have killed to have you know, just had a cover that at the least. But they did like a whole like vinyl soundtrack, and it was like Deftones, Lacuna Coil, Meshuggah. It's like, okay, it's like serious liquid metal top 40, you know, like artists.
Yeah.
Which, you know, whatever. But the thing that what's cool is at least like it I guess is bringing people to go read the comics and stuff. But again, like, man, I really wish they would have hit up some of you guys, because especially like you, who's into this stuff, you know.
I know.
And you know, that would have been fucking great. But so you're saying that you're super into the Batman Who Laughs. You dug Dark Knight's Metal. What other stuff? And then I read somewhere too that you're also very much into Elseworlds Batman stuff.
Yeah, actually, that's pretty much like how when I got back into Batman. Besides the Frank Miller stuff, which, you know, everyone always says, Frank, the Dark Knight's Return is like, I kind of like eased over the Dark Knight's Return, the Frank Miller stuff, because honestly, I'm an artist, and back then I appreciate it now, but back then I was like, Frank Miller's art sucks. I'm not gonna. Back then I was more into like Capullo or even back. I'm trying to think like the 80s. Who would have been like the big guy in the 80s? I don't know. I can't think right now. But I was like, but how I got back into Batman was Elseworlds, and literally was the Mike Mignola. I think it's I don't remember if it's. I'm trying to remember the first Elseworlds one. Was it? Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Gotham by Gaslight.
Okay. Yep. So, and I remember that was how I got into it. And then I read that in the graphic novel version. And then I remember while I was going back to the comic book stores, people were like, oh, if you like that, check this out. And right then and during that time was when the Vampire Batman was coming out. And I was actually going to ask, right behind you in the middle, is that the Vampire Batman?
Yeah, that's the
yep.
Kelly Jones, Crimson.
Yep, Kelly Jones.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites.
I was blown away. I was blown away by that. I love that. I love Kelly Jones' art, anyways, and it was just like, so I got it back into that, and I guess just got really back into Batman, heavily going through all the Elseworld stuff, and then of course when the New 52 came out, I felt like, okay, this is a cool opportunity for me. And New 52 Batman was the only run that I stuck through the entire thing, and I loved what Scott did with Court of the Owls. Actually, Court of the Owls is still one of my favorite things. It's like, man, they got to do more with that. And I see now with the new game that's coming out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I saw when they, the Court of the Owls is in it. I'm like, finally. I said, because now you don't get to play the Arkham games, even though I don't think you're going to be able to play Batman in it. It's kind of cool. I'm going to play, you get Batgirl, Robin, Nightwing, and, so it's kind of cool to see that the Court of Owls, because I saw like the little trailer for it, and I was like, oh, cool, they're putting the Court of Owls storyline in. So maybe that's why Bruce is missing, I'm thinking, because if I remember in the Court of the Owls, he was missing for like 2 weeks. He was stuck down there.
Yeah.
And so Court of the Owls is like, when that New 52 run came through, I was like, I love this. Because not only that, it's Greg's doing the artwork, which I loved Greg all the way back to Gore Shriek, which people don't even know he started on Gore Shriek. And then all through his Spawn run, which is Spawn I still collect today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So and I know I got King Spawn sitting in my box because it came out, I think, yesterday Well, no, yesterday was Thursday. So this Wednesday. So King Spawn #1 just came out. So it's sitting in my box. But you were asking where I got that poster, which, by the way, that poster is above me right here. I got it at the comic book shop that I get. I have my subscription at. And I remember walking in and they had it on the window. And I was like, are you guys going to like throw that away when you get done? And the guy's like, I got an extra one right here.
Nice.
And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, man, I haven't even like put it up. And he just handed it to me.
That's awesome.
Like, yeah. So it was like, and I went straight from the comic book shop straight to Walmart, I think, to get the frame, put it in the frame, and then came home and took that picture.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, the art is cool. Like the poster, it's sick, so at the very least. But have you read any of the Flashpoint stuff?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was going to say, if you haven't, jump on that. Like the Flashpoint Batman is so badass. Thomas Wayne.
Yeah.
So I think, it's Court of Owls, Scott Snyder stuff is probably like the most recent stuff that you've read that you love, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've read all the way up to I haven't read Joker War yet, and the Three Jokers, although I know the whole plot behind the Three Jokers. I know I watch spoilers, so it doesn't bother me. So I wanted to know it, and it's like so I know it. And so, and then I do like what Jeff Johns did, a lot of the universe, like some people don't. I actually was getting a little kind of, when Grant Morris's run was going, I was like, when Batman started going through time, I'm like, what's going on?
Oh, dude.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah. So I kind of like that Scott pulled it back and kind of made it, he tried to like take everything and put it all together, because I was like, a lot of people complained about that. I remember when New 52 first came out, they're like, how can you like not start Batman over? And how can you have a Batman with all this stuff going on and all this time? And I guess they just condensed it because the Flashpoint it's weird because, how could there be Dick Grayson? How could there be, Tim? How could there be Jason? How could there be like all these different Robins
within 2 years?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I love Scott Snyder. So I've tried to listen to all, we've actually interviewed him a bunch of times. Cool. So much that we call him our best friend writer, Scott Snyder. And he talked about how like when they pitched the idea of like what was going to happen with continuity, he was like, okay, but fuck that. Like, I'm just going to have everything that happened to Batman still have happened to him. Like, you can put it whatever timeline you want. Like, all that shit still was real. So they were like, oh, okay. And so it's like all that stuff happened in apparently like 2 years of him being Batman or however that was, 4 years or whatever. But yeah, dude, I love the Court of Owls is like untouchable. Like, that's like pretty much like the most recent, like that's like crazy canon. Like, everyone branches off of that now.
I mean, it was so cool because it gave, like, you didn't think after like the earthquake in Gotham and all that stuff happened. And even after like when Bruce was missing, I even read the run when he was missing, when Dick became Batman for a while. So Dick and Damian were like running around. And so I was never thought that there could be another layer to Gotham. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so, how could there be anything else in Gotham? You know, if you, and the Court of the Owls was just like that one layer that was, and it was perfect timing too, because in our society, we were like thinking of stuff like the Illuminati and like these secret underground societies where these rich people would get together in these robes and kind of have these meetings. And the Court of the Owls was essentially that. It was like the rich of Gotham who had been running everything. They knew everything. They even knew that Bruce was Batman. It's like they knew everything. And it was like, it kind of gave you this whole new layer to the whole mythos, to the whole Batman mythos.
Yeah, it injected like a piece of history that you never knew was there, and it was so genius the way they did that. Yeah, man, it's great when that happens. You kind of come across like an awesome fucking story, and it inspires a lot of stuff like that. But, dude, so have you been reading? Is it Spawn's now branched off into? Is it like Spawn's World? Is that what it's called, or
Spawn Universe?
Spawn Universe. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you reading?
It's really I've just stuck with the regular run, but even the regular run's kind of gotten weird and come back, and Al's back after like being gone, and it's so weird. But it's just like I get it. I've always known this about Spawn. I mean, Spawn to me was a book that I collected because of Todd's art more than Todd's storytelling. And then, definitely when Greg came in, it was like, wow, the art just like went up a notch. Even though Todd was inking it, Greg just has this way of just dynamics. His pages are so dynamic. And, now he's gone, and it's like one of those things I've just stuck with all these years, because it's the one comic book that when I got back into collecting comic books in the 90s, because I was in that first whole Image phase, that whole, that was the one that out of all the Image stuff I just kept Spawn. And it's like that, even when I've gone to new comic book shops too, it's like, that's the first thing I just put in my, subscription box, I just like, because I've gone through so many comic book, that's the other sad thing, is how many comic book companies or stores, at least in Florida, have shut down. They're gone. Stores that I was a part of, they're gone. They don't exist there anymore. I go by this one that we used to go to, and it's like, now it's like a sub shop. And I'm thinking, man, I used to walk in there. That's where I had my first subscription box. And now people are going in and buying, Jersey Mike's.
Yeah, it's brutal, man. It's what was cool that Jim Lee did is, I don't know if you saw that, what he was doing, but he was auctioning off like sketches. He did like 70 sketches. So what he would do is he would do one, and the person that he would give that one to would get to pick what the next character would be. So then he'd do that character, and then each of them he would do an auction for, and each auction would benefit a different comic shop, basically.
Oh, that's awesome.
To help pay their bills through the pandemic. And so he like single-handedly saved like hundreds of comic shops from going out of business. It was crazy. It was really, really awesome that he was doing that.
That's really cool of him, man.
So, and it's Jim Lee, so you're getting like a big fucking Jim Lee sketch. It's awesome. Like everything he did was amazing looking. So, and then it was picked by fans, so it was stuff that like he's never drawn before, which was really cool to see. I know that I was also reading that it sounds like your dad got you into the Universal monsters when you were a kid, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know, do you collect any of that stuff? Like, dude, there's this company called NECA. They're putting out the OG. Yep. I just picked this one up this week, and it is so sick, dude. Like, he is so badass.
Yeah.
And
I've been looking at that, but money's so tight right now. And I was like, man, because I've got all the NECA, like I'm a big also Friday the 13th fan. So I got all the Jasons. And I'm a huge Godzilla fan. So I've got a room full of Godzilla stuff. So I got all the NECA run of Godzilla figures. And then, unfortunately they lost the license on that. And,
that's right.
Yeah. So, but they did the Kong stuff. So I picked up all their Kong stuff and stuff like that. And I did pick up the Frankenstein and the monster. I did pick up the monster and the bride. That I can't remember. It's that one company that looks like the old stuff from the 70s.
The Diamond Select?
Not Diamond Select. He's like the son of the guy that started that company, and it starts with the M. Mezco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
shit! You grabbed the Mezco Frankenstein. Yeah,
there's a Frankenstein and Bride that came out, so I grabbed
the Bride
those.
Too? Oh shit!
Yeah, they did the Bride, and it's really cool because you put them up together, and the cards kind of like make one big picture if you have them side to side.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. So I grabbed those, and then I know the NECA's doing them, and I saw the Wolfman's coming out.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, man, I got to get that Wolfman. But I also saw that there's a American Werewolf in London coming out. And I'm like, oh man, I got to get that. But right now it's like until the people start buying the album, I'm like, I'm got no money coming in.
Hey man, but that's what we're here for. We're here to pump that shit out there, make sure people go and grab it. So it's you know, I don't know if you know the guy who runs NECA, Randy, but he's also a metalhead too.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so Randy actually, I think he's like, you know, heavy metal, old school heavy metal, like the new wave stuff. He's a big I mean, they do all the Iron Maiden Eddie figures. Okay. So you know he likes Iron Maiden. I thought I saw that they were doing they have done the Megadeth figures. They were doing like a Scott Ian figure too. I don't know if that ever came out or not, but
that's weird.
Yeah, I think he's friends with Scott Ian. So like, I guess, you know, hey, let me make you a figure. But yeah, dude, I've been trying to get like bands to like hook up with NECA, at least so they can hook up the bands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the very least. But if not, like, man, like, dude, how sick would it be to have like a line of like old school death metal, like legendary, like band member, like fucking, you know, figures.
Well, I don't know if I want a figure of myself. I mean, that's a little crazy. I wouldn't mind like a Creature from the first album, or we just did the EP, which we kind of like have a reversion of the Creature, like on that. So I wouldn't mind something like a toy of that, because that would be really cool. I'd like that. Like kind of how they do Eddie. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I don't know if I'd want an action figure of myself. I'm an old school death metal guy, but I don't like that rock star kind of like attitude towards things. Yeah. And I kind of try to stay, I guess, down to earth as much as possible. I've been really boisterous about that whole rock star attitude thing too. Sometimes so people are like, I don't understand why you're like that. And I'm like, because death metal wasn't supposed to be that way. It's like, I come from the first wave of death metal. And when we did it, it wasn't supposed to be like, oh, you walk into the mall and there's a Cannibal Corpse shirt and an Obituary shirt and a Cradle of Filth shirt. And I'm talking about Hot Topic, but I don't, I never pictured death metal to be that
commercialized
phase. Yeah, that commercialized. So I even though I'm old school and I'm an old man now, and I still stick to those old values, which probably isn't the same in today's society, but that's something that's just never going to leave me, because that's like when we first created it, we did it as a way of like, I can say my love for death metal has to go back to my love for horror. I'm a big horror movie fan. I mean, that's really why I did what I did when I started. Going all the way back to Mantas and Death, even back then when I was in those bands, it's all the way back to 83 and 84. It's all because of my love of horror. And I was a big Misfits fan. I was more of like a Misfits fan, like coming from the punk side of stuff and what Glenn Danzig was doing in the Misfits. And I loved the Misfits and horror punk, early horror punk like that. And anything that had that horror aspect, although I never liked Kiss. I was not. I'll tell you that. Yeah, I'm not a Kiss fan.
Well, they acted like Gene Simmons acts like the ultimate rock star.
Yeah, I don't like Kiss, but and I never really got into Kiss, but I was into Alice Cooper. And the reason I was into Alice Cooper, again, my dad had vinyl collection. Actually, how I got into music was because my dad collected vinyl. And I've been around entertainment all my life. My dad's an entertainer and stuff, so I've been around stage and behind stage and stuff all my life. But I remember the first time of like picking up my dad's records and playing stuff like Alice Cooper and stuff like Jimi Hendrix and stuff like that. That's kind of like what got me into heavier music. And then I was a little skate punk, riding around my skateboard and stuff like that, and was just listening to like early skate punk stuff, GBH and early punk rock and stuff like that. And then it just kind of like turned into like becoming that early metal stuff by listening to bands or hearing stuff like Accept and early thrash, like bands like Raven from out of Canada and stuff like that. And then like saying, okay, let's get away from that high-pitched singing, and let's kind of like go with a different, I mean, for me, that's how I kind of did it. I mean, I heard what Tom G. Warrior was doing in Hellhammer, and there was a lot of demo. I was a tape trader too, so I was trading a lot of stuff. And there was people getting a little bit more raspier, you know, from Motorhead, Lemmy from Motorhead, and then the vocals were getting raspier. And my take on it was like, why try to sound like this or try to sound like that? It's like, let's just be as brutal and animalistic and primal as possible. And I was like, I remember I love Rottweilers, and I remember the first time I thought about the growling, because I still do this today, and not too many death metal singers still even do this. I growl before I like sing. Like, so there's a song will come in and I'll do a, and I got that from listening to Rottweilers, literally, because I wasn't allowed to have one, or a pit bull. I wasn't allowed to have until I got out on my own. And I just remember how Rottweilers or pits would get like that really low growl when you got up to them, even if they weren't even angry, they would just do that. And I thought that's what death metal needs to be. It needs to be that primal. It needs to be that growling kind of thing. So that's literally how it came about, was just me and just wanting to be primal, and also me wanting to be something completely different than what was the common metal back then. Because you gotta remember, this is the 80s. So everything was hair metal. Everything was Motley Crue. Everything was like Kip Winger and Poison and stuff like that. That was like the most popular stuff. And then you had other metal that was kind of like, you know, the Judas Priest and Merciful Fate, but everyone was like all high soprano, like metal and stuff like that. And I was like, we got to go the polar opposite of that. We got to go completely different of that. If we're singing about death, we've got to like go down deep. We got to go caveman. We got to go brutal, you know, like, and that's literally my mindset.
That's awesome, man. That's I didn't know that. That's a fucking badass story. And it's interesting how that's pretty much how it all started, really. Like, it started with that, and it's interesting where people have taken it since then. I told Austin that I would keep you for 30 minutes. I don't know if you have a hard out, like you got another interview to do, so I don't want to keep you too long. Okay. I want to be respectful of your time, man. But this has been a fucking blast, dude. You have an open invitation whenever you want to come back and just talk comics, metal, whatever you want, dude, because it's very rare to have like this is exactly what I was trying to get, like the crossover with like comics, metal, and like you're the exact dude that's got. Well, like,
I'm going to tell you this before I let you go. Yeah. This is something I've been working on for a while now, and it's actually it looks like now with Nuclear Blast it's going to come to fruition. I've been trying to do a horror comic anthology.
Fuck yeah. And
I've actually got pages done. I've got pages done by some artists that I've worked with. Some, of course I tried to get Jeff Zornow. I don't know if you know who Jeff Zornow is. He's a comic artist. He's worked on everything from with IDW with Godzilla, and he does a lot of horror stuff. And I got Jeff to do just the cover because Jeff's a little expensive, even though he's my friend. But all these other artists I've got, they're artists that are in the more of the underground metal scene, but they wanted to cross over in the comic scene too. So I've talked to a lot of them, and I said, hey, actually some have done some comics, but more like the underground horror comics and stuff like that. And I really wanted to do an anthology kind of story, make it black and white, kind of like the old, eerie and creepy comics from the 1970s. And I wanted everything to kind of like go back to songs, like influences. And I told every artist, I said, look, because they all said, well, what are we doing? And I said, I gave them the freedom to do what they wanted. And I said, just listen to the first album, listen to From Beyond, listen to those songs, and whatever you come up with, let's talk about it. Whatever, you don't have to follow the lyrics. If it gives you an idea, if it gives you an influence, let's do it. And they said, well, how many pages? I said, I'd like you to do the least 6 pages, so you have 6 to 10 pages of freedom to do. mostly everyone stayed with the 6 pages, but a couple guys stretched it out to 10 pages. And let you know, the guys that stretch it out to 10 pages went above and beyond. And so I had that going. And of course, COVID hit and everything else like that. And then it was like, oh, am I going to get this out? Well, the good thing is Nuclear Blast, the head of Nuclear Blast, actually remembered I talked about the comic book. He's a big comic book fan too. So he was like, hey, let's talk about that comic again. Maybe next year. I'm like, and so the idea is we're going to release an album and a comic together.
Fuck.
So hopefully that's something that comes together. And I'm hoping that works. And another comic book thing, I'll let you go after this, is I've taken something from comic books that I don't think has ever been done in music yet. And I love the fact that, even though it's a cash grab sometimes with comic books with all these alternate covers, but it's kind of cool when you have a certain artist, like a number one will come out and there'll be like 2 or 3 different alternate covers from different artists. And I was thinking, how come that's never been done in metal? How come we don't have a metal album? Everyone always says there's this iconic metal album. How come we don't have one album with 2 different cool covers?
Yeah, variants.
So I've got an EP coming out that's going to have 2 alternate covers.
Fuck yeah. That's dope.
I don't know if it's the first time or not, but I feel like it's like something that's maybe this is the first time that it's actually been done in metal. And then the idea comes straight from comic books. It's literally, awesome. Like cover A and cover B. So you get to choose which one you want, whichever artists you like better, of course, the material will be the same, just like, a comic, the inside is going to be the same. It's just going to be the cover art's going to be different. Cool. So that's another influence from comic books that I've taken to apply to my band.
Well, hell yeah, dude. Well, when both those projects are a little bit closer, I definitely want to have you back to talk about them, because that'd be amazing to kind of just dig into for sure.
Okay, no problem.
All right, man. Well, hey, Cam, dude, this was amazing. I can't believe I'm getting to talk to you. I never thought when starting this little show I'd be able to talk to guys like you, and you're definitely fucking on the Mount Rushmore of people I never thought I'd be able to talk to. So thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. Fucking new record. I can't wait for it. Everyone's pumped. I'm pumped. Congrats on it. And can't wait, dude. Thanks so much for your time, man.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, man. Thank you.
All right, dude. You have a good weekend.
All right.